Our objective with this video is to teach middle and high school students on how to write UPAC names for hydrocarbons and also on how to draw structural formulas for UPAC names in a fun and easy way. The International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, also named UPAC, serves to advance the worldwide aspect of chemical sciences and to contribute to the application of chemistry in the service of humankind. As a scientific international, non-governmental and objective body, UPAC can address many global issues involving the chemical sciences. It is very important to have specific rules to name hydrocarbons, because of the uses of these compounds. Nowadays, hydrocarbons are the most used chemical compounds in daily life. The most common hydrocarbons are methane, ethane, propane, and butane.
Hydrocarbon is an organic compound consisting entirely of hydrogen and carbon. Hydrocarbons from which one hydrogen atom has been removed are functional groups called hydrocarbons. Aromatic hydrocarbons, arenes, alkanes, alkenes, cycloalkanes, and alkyne compounds are different types of hydrocarbons. Alkanes have only single bonds, alkenes have double bonds, and alkynes have triple bonds. The majority of hydrocarbons found on Earth naturally occur in crude oil, where decomposed organic matter provides an abundance of carbon and hydrogen which, when bonded, can catenate to form seemingly limitless chains. Alkanes are a saturated hydrocarbon. Alkanes consist only of hydrogen and carbon atoms, and all bonds are single bonds. Acyclic alkanes have the general chemical formula CnH2n plus 2. Hydrocarbons, or compounds based on a chain of hydrogen and carbon, are the basis of organic chemistry. You need to learn to name them according to the UPAC, or International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, which is the currently accepted method for naming hydrocarbon chains. The UPAC rules were created to phase out all names and replace them with a system that would be consistent, as well as providing information about the placement of substituents, which means the atoms or molecules attached to a hydrocarbon chain. The first step is to determine the longest carbon chain. Then, when you have determined the longest chain, you assign the prefix depending on the number of carbons in the longest chain. Meth for 1 carbon, eth for 2, pro for 3, but for 4, and pen for 5, and depending on each carbon. And finally, you put the suffix depending on the bonds that you have. Alkanes have only single bonds, alkenes have double bonds, and alkynes have triple bonds. Ethane. Ethane is a chemical compound with chemical formula C2H6. To name this compound, first you have to determine the longest chain, which is 2, and then you give the prefix eth, and then, as it only has single bonds, you add the suffix ane, because having only single bonds means that it is an alkane. Methane is a chemical compound with the chemical formula CH4. It's the simplest alkane and the main component of natural gas. Then, to name this compound, first you have to determine the longest chain, which is 1, and then you give the prefix meth, and then as it has only single bonds, you add the suffix "n", because having only single bonds means that it is an alkane. Propane is a 3-carbon alkane with the molecular formula C3H8. To name this compound, first you have to determine the longest chain, which is 3, and then you give the prefix pro, and then, as it only has single bonds, you add the suffix "ane".
Steps on how to draw structural formulas for alkanes. First, determine the number of carbons of the alkane. Second, determine the number of hydrogens of the alkane. Third, draw the number of carbons. And finally, draw the number of hydrogens next to the carbon. Ethane. Eth means 2 carbons. To find the number of hydrogens, we need to double that 2, that's 4, and then add 2, that's 6. To draw the structural formula, Ethane has two carbons in a row. This carbon has one bond, it needs three more. And this other carbon also just have one bond, so it needs three more. We add the hydrogens at the end of the carbons.
Hydrocarbon derivatives. These are organic compounds that are based on hydrocarbons with the addition of specific functional groups. A functional group is a reactive group of atoms.
There are six groups of hydrocarbons derivatives, which are alcohols, ether, aldehydes, ketones, carboxylic acids, and esters.